always listening, talking about the dragons from the past that breathe fire on your emotional brain. I have a special guest today because she has this dragon.
I'm not a guest. I am your wife.
Where is the gavel?
The gavel's here. I always have the gavel.
So bang it. This
Court is in session.
Court is in session. So do you often...
No judgment on my pajama bottoms.
Do you often feel like you're the judge, the jury, and the executioner?
Yes.
And that's who I live with. And I bought her the gavel.
Especially when I turn the news on.
For Christmas, because she's always making proclamation.
Yes, I can't turn the news on without like screaming.
So I created, redhead, just like her, the Judgmental dragon. And, you know, this comes from your brain is always listening. And in it, we talk about the origin story. So where did you get this dragon where you feel like, if I was king, the world would be so much better?
Safety. Clearly, safety, rules. We need rules. And rules need to be followed. Like, it's just clear. Because life was not safe.
Oh, someone's birthday is today. 68.
Oh,
Happy
birthday.
That's really awesome. All right. So the origin of the Judgmental dragon is where you grew up, where it was not secure, where you perceived it wasn't fair.
Yeah, or when you see things happen that people are hurt, and it's like it's not fair. You see justice not being, what you perceive as justice not being done.
So you experience injustice, and you experienced a lot of injustice. Where's your book?
Oh, right here.
So it's actually, she writes about it in The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. It's a very unusual time. It's the first time we've ever had two books come out.
But they fit together so well, which is why we're doing the PBS special together.
Coming out February 27th, nationwide. So check your local PBS listenings. The origin of this dragon is if you grew up with people who played favorites. And you actually watched this with your grandmother and your mother.
The whole Middle Eastern, well, I don't know if all Middle Eastern cultures do this, but my mother was not as valued because she was female. And even though she was the hardest working, the most responsible, took care of she took care of my grandmother when the boys didn't. It was so weird. But she would always make comments about my mother being a woman. Yeah. And not being as good.
So things were inconsistent in how rules applied. Now, this dragon actually gets triggered in you a lot. I noticed this dragon a lot, which is why I bought you the gavel. It gets triggered whenever you feel injustice to yourself or to others, and how this
especially people
reacts.
For me, it's especially people who are helpless. So if it's a child, you will not calm me down. Like if it's a child, it's like all bets are off.
It's so cool. We have people from British Columbia. People pre-ordered the book, found out their dragons. You can know your dragons at knowyourdragons.com. We've already had thousands of people take the test, and lots of people have this dragon, especially during the pandemic.
Oh, dear Lord. Well, the political divide and the social issues really trigger it.
And so
because those are
how do you know if
rooted.
you have this dragon? You can be condescending.
Not me.
Didn't say that. Critical.
Yeah, that's me.
Moralizing.
Yeah.
Telling others what they should think.
Absolutely. Because
or not think.
Yeah.
And my dad,
especially when I'm right.
My dad used to always say, if I was governor or if I was president.
And your dad's favorite words were BS. And sorry, but I loved that about your dad. So.
And this dragon really bit me, because your dragons can breathe fire, yes, on you and ruin how you feel. But this dragon breathes fire on the people close to you. And so one day, this really bad thing happened in the Bay Area where a teenager was gang raped by other kids.
Yeah, but I didn't know this at the time. Let me tee this up. So I don't know, like I heard it on the news. I heard the story on the news, but I didn't know that this is why I was being summoned. So he gets called to be on Larry King, obviously for the story, which I don't know about.
God rest his soul.
And yes.
We loved him.
Yes. And so Daniel gets called to be on Larry King, but it's like last minute, they need him up there right away. And of course, we're trying to drive to LA, which is like 40 miles away, and it's in terrible traffic. So I get summoned for carpool duty. So,
and plus,
but I love, right, exactly. I'm like, I'm happy to do
most
carpool
of the
duty,
time,
except for that day.
Not that day.
So I was happy to do
Not that
carpool
day.
duty. But anyways, we're in the car, and I didn't really have a chance to ask him what he was going to be on Larry King for. And we're in the car, and all of a sudden he's asking me to do some research for him online. I'm looking something up for him, and I realized, I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna be on because of that poor little girl that was gang raped. You're gonna give those guys an excuse. I'm like, there's no excuse for a gang, a group of guys that do that to her. No, I went off. I'm like, you have granddaughters, you have daughters. Like, I lose my mind. Like, literally.
I so didn't want to go. I was being punished.
Yes.
And it's totally not what I do. I don't give people an excuse for bad behavior. But if you don't try to understand why people
and there was only one thing that I understood.
If you don't try to understand, right, that is the judgmental dragon. And
if someone
part of taming the judgmental dragon is beginning to understand behavior is more complicated than just simple answers.
And this is hard.
If you don't take in consideration their brain function, their brain health, you'll never really solve the problem. You'll just be, this dragon's favorite movies are vengeance movies.
Justice movies.
Rambo.
Justice.
Taken.
Justice.
Law-abiding citizen. Gran Torino. Dirty Harry. All the dragons have movies they love, and these are Tama's favorite movies.
It's like, if you really want to get me in the mood. I'm sorry. But let me be clear about something, because we talk a lot about forgiveness. So because of my book, in my book, there's some pretty gnarly stuff, and a lot of you have commented on it. And I've had to do a lot of work on forgiving some of the people in my past. And so this can get really sticky, because you've got this judgment that happens when people do something bad, and yet we're talking about forgiveness. And yeah, the two are, they're connected, but they're not the same. Because you forgive someone, and I do love our work. So, like, setting all joking aside for a minute, what I love about our work at the clinics is that when you do understand, when you're not in a heated conversation about, for me, all I could see in that moment was protecting the little girl. Okay, because you protect the person who the injustice was done to. So, but when I'm not in that heated moment, I love our work so much, because when we understand some of these things, especially before these bad things happen, we can often prevent them. And that's what I really love about what we do. But just because you forgive someone does not mean that person doesn't pay consequences. It does not mean you don't draw boundaries. It doesn't even mean you need to see that person if they've really hurt you, or you think they're going to hurt you again. Yes. It just means you let go of the anger. And that takes work. For me, it's a daily practice. Because this dragon is so strong in my life, it's a daily practice.
And I think, this dragon also drives you to help others.
Absolutely.
And
especially people who
this
are
dragon, all
oppressed.
of the dragons have an upside. And I think that's important to understand. And the judgmental dragon's upside, it can help you feel in control.
Mm-hmm.
It can help you clarify your values and your goals. It also wants us to right wrongs and protect those who are victims.
Right.
You totally have that. It can guide your actions and help make pro-social choices. Like anger and the angry dragon, judgment can be good if it's directed positively for present day reasons and not still dealing with the unfair things that happened in the past. Mm-hmm. And you often told Chloe when she was little, because Chloe would often say, it's not fair.
Right.
And what would you say?
I'm like, whoever told you life was going to be fair? Fair is a place with bad food and farm animals. It has nothing to do with life. What are you going to do to make the world a better place or to make the situation better? And she would look at me like, what? There's a place where things are fair? What? Like, she didn't understand what I was saying.
All right. So how do you, if you have this dragon, and your husband or your wife gets you a gavel, don't take it personally.
I don't take it personally at all. I'm not offended at all.
It was a joke.
I'm fine with it.
So how do you tame this dragon? One, reach for forgiveness. Forgiveness is so helpful. You want to build your empathy by realizing behavior is way more complicated than most people think. And what Pastor Warren says at church all the time is hurt people, hurt people. And so there is more to the story. And I was not going to defend them. That's not my job. I was just going to, like, from a neuroscientist perspective, how do you understand this behavior so you can work to prevent it?
And I didn't think I would ever gain empathy from some of the people who hurt me when I was younger. But as I wrote my book, that's what happened. It's not, and empathy doesn't mean that I agreed with them. So we have to understand this. It just means that I stepped back, got all the information, was able to now begin to put it all together and process it as an adult with more life experience and go, okay, I don't have to agree with it, but at least I can see where it stemmed from.
And the early villain in your life, your uncle who was a heroin addict,
became one of my mentors.
It sort of reminds me of the play Wicked,
yeah,
where you actually see the Wicked Witch of the West. You see her story from her perspective.
And I hated drug addicts because of that situation when I was growing up, and he became one of my mentors. He's a cool guy.
Ask if you're judging in the present or fixing the past. Ask if you have all the facts or if you're assuming things about others that you really don't know, because the news and journalists, they slant things based on how they want you.
And by the way, so do people. And we don't remember. Your memories are always valid, but your memories aren't always accurate, especially if they're from when you were young. They're always valid. But a 4-year-old sees things differently than an adult does. So step back, get all the information from when you were young, and then go through and try to process.
I actually think the relentless courage of a scared child is your way of taming the judgmental.
Do you now? Because you encouraged me to do it. So is that what you were trying to do all along?
Oh, no, I totally want to tame that dragon. That dragon frequently breathes fire on me. So what I'm going to cut out of the book and post on her mirror, all the dragons have affirmations or meditations. I trade judgment for understanding. I release judgment so I can feel free. I treat people in pain with compassion, not more pain. I am a role model for what I want to see in the world.
Yes.
I foster peace in this situation, so there will be more peace.
Yeah, I have to work on the second one. All the others are great.
We hope this has been helpful to you. All of these talks come from my new book, Your Brain is Always Listening. You can go to yourbrainisAlwaysListening.com. And when you pre-order, I saw many of you in the comments already pre-ordered it. You can get a free coupon for a bottle of Happy Saffron. It's a $50 value just by pre-ordering the book. There's other gifts as well. I have a free event coming next Tuesday, 5 o'clock Pacific time. We're going to spend 90 minutes, and we're going to talk about dragon theory and how to get rid of them. Take care, everybody.
Hey, everyone. I am going to take, since you guys are all